All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from, whether it's live or elsewhere. As you know, every Saturday we try to give you the rundown of goings on in entertainment, known as This Week in Pulp Culture. And as always, I won't be alone in talking about the topics that have happened over the course of this week. Man, did we have some things go down, even within the last few days. So I won't be alone, of course, in talking about that. So I want to welcome my co-host, the one, the only Spillman, aka Spills, True Heart. Let me bring him on now. What's going on, sir?
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope we're doing well. Or good morning on the West Coast, like Brandon said. Sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes I'm time traveling, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know what time it
Hey,
is.
hey, it
Happy
happens. It
Groundhog's
happens.
Day. So,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
might get
for
stuck
sure,
in a crazy time loop or something
for
and see a
sure.
friend of yours from childhood 1,000 times in a week. So, there you go.
There you go. There you go. So, as I said, this week in pop culture, there are a couple of things that I want to, get into. So, without further ado, apologies for running late, guys. Things happen. Things in the moment live happen. So, we running a little bit behind, but thank you for joining us anyway. So, let me hop into our first story. The first thing I want to get into is sports related, and it's regarding the Orioles. So reported Tuesday by Puck News and it's confirmed by the team on Wednesday. Co-founder of the Carlisle Group, Mr. David Rubenstein, agreed to purchase the Orioles from the Angelos family for $1.725 billion. Yes, that's a billion with a B. Now, in terms of buying this team, he has the largest stake in the purchase of the team. However, it includes a group that features not Michelle, Mitchell Goldstein and Michael Smith of the Aries Credit Group, Michelle Kang, former Baltimore Mayor Kurt Schmoke, and former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg. But it also includes two Hall of Fame athletes, Mr. Grant Hill, and of course the legendary Cal Ripken Jr. So we have this news of the Baltimore Orioles spill, and what are your thoughts on the team being purchased by a Baltimore native?
Well, I'm very excited to see what the Rubenstein ownership group. I don't know if they still call them owners in the MLB, correct? Because I know that the NBA's moved to governors, but we'll call them a governor because owners got a kind of a tinge to it. So we'll go ahead and call him the governor of the Orioles now. So that's a very interesting purchase. It's one of the most beautiful ball fields in sports. I know that people like Wrigley because of the grass, or Fenway because of the Big Green Monster. People like the Big Green Monster, and it's got a cool name. But um, building Camden Yards into that facade, the fact that they've got Cal Ripken, he rescued his mama from wherever she's got kidnapped from recently, and put his money together to purchase the team, which is wonderful to me. I love Cal Ripken and I love the Orioles. Obviously, I'm more of a Nats fan. Well, I mean, that's not obvious to you guys because we never talk about baseball on this podcast, but I'm a diehard Nats fan who was also in ownership. So, really, the question is what's going to happen with Masson because both of those teams play on that platform. Are they going to come up with their own cable entity? I wonder how that's going to work. So, there's a lot of questions. Happy to see that Grant Hill was able to be a part of that ownership group. Like to see one of us in there. So I'm pretty excited about it. How do you feel, Brandon? And so, yeah.
Hold on, I'm still
Go
here.
ahead, Brandon.
So
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
cool.
sorry, a little technical difficulty there, but
Yeah, yeah.
in speaking to this matter, as I said, just as Spillman was talking about, we do talk sports in here. We don't talk a whole bunch of baseball on here. I'm sure that will change, as things happen with the goings on in that particular sport. It just hasn't happened as of late. But with that said, it's great to see that you have a Baltimore native, someone who has grown up in that area, taking over, ownership of the team. It's always awesome to see that. And then on top of that too, it's cool that, and it's not to say that the group that you have there aren't baseball fans, but it's also great to see that you have someone who has played the sport in that circle as well, that being Cal Ripken Jr. And not only that, someone who has played for the Orioles, so someone who has that connection with the team specifically is always great to see. So you know, more power to them. I wish them luck. It's cool to see that you have that makeup of within that group that are taking ownership of the team, and who knows, we'll see what happens. So I don't know if you have any other further thoughts, but
I just quickly, would you argue that Cal Ripken is the greatest Oriole? Frank Robinson obviously won a
yes,
World
I
Series with
would.
them,
I would
but
absolutely would.
he was the Iron Man there.
Yeah,
He
icon,
played his whole career
icon.
there. I mean, you can't.
Can't be
2,000 games,
icon.
2,001. I think it was like 2,136 or something like that. Don't quote me, ladies and gentlemen. It might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less, but still, 2,100 games in anything, 2,100 of anything, is amazing. And just to see the longevity that he had, just amazing. Also,
Absolutely.
it's good to see that they had another local guy, because you might not know this or you might forget this, but Grant Hill is from the area, so I imagine he's a great fan of the Orioles, because he was here while they were the baseball team before the Nats came here. So I imagine that was his squad.
Cool, absolutely. All right, so hopping into our next story. Unfortunately, we did have some bad news that happened within the last few days, and that is, of course, the passing of Carl Weathers. He passed away this Thursday, according to his manager, Matt Luber. Just to run down the list of accomplishments in his career. I mean, I have a couple of them there that a lot of people, of course, remember him from, whether it's as Apollo Creed in the Rocky films, or even in Predator, in Action Jackson, of course, and of
Of
course as
course.
for his primetime Emmy award nominated his nominated role in The Mandalorian. So I mean, as I said, that's just a small taste of what he's accomplished thus far in his career. Spillman, what are your thoughts, man, of unfortunately, losing this icon over the course of this week? And this happened, like I said, relatively recently, in the last few days.
Yes. So, Carl Weathers, the GOAT, you forgot some of the things. He was an NFL player. He went from the league
That too.
to
That too.
Hollywood. Like, he
That
was one
too.
of the second or third, like one of the big ones. Like, arguably you could say he's one of the more successful Hollywood football to Hollywood guys. He was a Raider. The Raiders put out a thing. He had great range. He did dramatic and comedic roles, famously playing Chubbs on Happy Gilmore. It's all in the hips. Something I say to this day. Um, but I just, great actor. No one ever, we never heard anything crazy about him. He was always a stand-up guy. Stallone was beside himself with grief. I saw Stallone put out something that was really nice about him. Um, I don't know of anybody who said that the man had a bad bone in his body when he was alive. So not even just to give him his flowers. But
All the interactions that I had have always been, positive, with him. And yeah, it's unfortunate because, if we're just, like I said, I said the word icon, and I don't use the word icon lightly. If we're just talking about just the trailblazing component of just his career overall. I mean, of course, you just name drop. We had Stallone and Schwarzenegger throughout the 80s. To have someone who looked like us during
us,
that time, that
us.
was an action icon. Carl Weathers was that guy. So, to have him there and to pave the way, he was one of those trailblazers. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, we did have Shaft out there, but I'm saying, like, during that
I
era,
feel
the
like
80s.
Shaft was not our era.
Yeah, but
Carl Weathers is our
I
era.
know, but I'm saying Shaft in terms of the style of action, perhaps where like he's more of like the suave guy. If we're talking about Action Jackson, where like he's right up there, as I said, with Stallone and Schwarzenegger, where we have those major action icons that we had during that area, where it was these uh, 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 the immediate thing that comes to mind for me is probably the iconic scene that we have with in Predator, where it's at this point, because of how over the top it was, it has become a meme. Where if you know what I'm talking about, Spillman, I'm talking about that
Dylan,
scene. Yeah, that scene with dealing with the handshake. Like that's the most like insane,
Dylan.
iconic like handshake you could ever have in cinema. I dare anybody to give me
Oh
a more
yeah,
iconic handshake than
I
that.
got that video like
So,
3 times yesterday.
bruh. So, and then as you said, to talk about his career, or his abilities as an actor, to have such an impact on a role that it still has ripples even now, going into, I'm just talking about the Rocky franchise. Like
Hey,
to have
boxers
to
still wear
have
the red,
that
white,
much,
blue shorts today.
but I'm saying to have that much impact on a role, that it's so memorable, it has such an impact in the franchise overall, that they've created a whole other separate franchise just with the character's son. If no one cared about the Apollo Creed character, we would have no Creed franchise at all. There would be there would be no interest in the Creed franchise at all. But
There's no Clubber Lang franchise.
because of that foundation that was set in the Rocky franchise with that character and what he brought to that role, there was interest to have it continue further with the character's son. There wouldn't have been any interest had there not been any interest in the character at all from the get go in the original Rocky franchise. So, um,
Think about
condolences
it.
to his family and friends, but yeah, like icon, man, icon.
Think about it. He was so iconic in that role that people don't even remember that it was Muhammad Ali he's playing. He's playing Muhammad Ali in the Rocky movies because Rocky was a real person. Rocky fought Muhammad Ali. He lost to Muhammad Ali, but they did. You don't even think of Apollo Creed as Muhammad Ali, a stand-in like you would with other things that have famous people, but they change them a little bit, but they're still the famous person. But
Yeah,
just the range of his acting and just how he captured that was just truly a testament to how great of an actor he was. And it's just we get old, man. All our heroes was, and it's not like oh he died in a car crash. 76. Unfortunately, that's just old man stuff, man.
but
It's
I'm
just
saying, still
crazy.
in the context of like our day and age right now, that I mean, yeah, it's not
It's
young,
a
but
black guy.
it's
It's a
not.
black guy.
But
That's
still,
yeah.
it's not crazy old either. If we're taking into context where we are, technology and medicine wise. So,
Yeah.
but still, as I said, condolences to family and friends of Carl Weathers, again passing away at 76. We're going to hop into our next story. Did you have any final thoughts before we hop into yet another sports story? We're very sports heavy today.
Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's all in the hips.
Rest in peace again, man. All right. So our next story is actually regarding a team here in the nation's capital with none other than the Washington Commanders. So an agreement was reached between a defensive coordinator of the Cowboys and the team this past Thursday, making him the head coach, the new head coach of the Washington Commanders. He's replacing Ron Rivera, who was let go after 4 seasons as the Commanders' head coach, and of course the de facto, you know, uh, head of operations. Just to give you just a quick some spark notes of Dan Quinn's resume. He has over 21 years as a in coaching in the NFL, starting his career in 2001 as a quality control coach with the 49ers, a defensive line coach for not only the 49ers, the Dolphins, Jets, but also the Seahawks. In 2013, he was a defensive coordinator helping the Seahawks in back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. In 2015, he was the Falcons head coach and led the team to the Super Bowl in his second season. Unfortunately, he was let go from the Falcons in 2020, but he became the Cowboys defensive coordinator in 2021. And just in 2023, he helped the Cowboys defense finish fifth in total yards, as well as passing yards and points allowed. Unfortunately, they this season lost to the Green Bay Packers in the first round. So he's had a lot of success, but I'm getting some deja vu vibes of another type of coach here. I'll get into who I'm thinking right now, but just off initial impressions, Spillman, what are your thoughts on the Commanders hiring Dan Quinn as the new head coach?
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that Dan Quinn went to a Super Bowl. But when Dan Quinn went to the Super Bowl, do you remember that Super Bowl? Do you know? Does anybody remember the Dan Quinn Super Bowl? What had happened in that Super Bowl? I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, they were up 28-3 on Tom Brady. We were all dancing on Tom Brady's grave. We were all like, "Oh, Tom Brady's an old, washed-up man," and we finally happy to see Atlanta
Yep.
not throw up all over themselves.
Yep.
But then what had happened?
What had happened was in the third
They threw
quarter.
up on themselves. That's right. In the fourth quarter, Tom Brady
What had
started
happened was
all that twinkling magic started going all around Tom Brady. Then he started completing first down after first down. I'm just frustrated totally with what has happened with this franchise. I'm completely tired of retreads. I don't understand how we ended up with the defensive coordinator from the Dallas Cowboys, who who let somebody put up 45, if I remember correctly, on them in the playoffs this year.
nah, I hear you, man. So yeah, like the reason why I brought up the recent things that have transpired. I know
I know who you talking about. We know who you talking about.
just last week we were talking about who? We were talking about Doc Rivers, correct? And we were
Doc
talking
Rivers,
about,
same
yeah,
thing.
you have a body, a body, a resume of success overall. But when we're talking about sports, it's very much what have you done for me lately type of industry. And if that is the field that you are, looking to have your career in, as a coach, as an athlete, whatever the case may be, it's it very much has that air of what have you done for me lately. And if we're talking about what Quinn has done lately, they they were they were bounced in the first round. I mean, you can argue, that yeah, that there are, those prior Super Bowl appearances, and that's undoubtedly something that is great to see, on the resume of the coach that you're hiring. Um, but if we're just talking just in general of just the momentum of what's happened thus far, it there has been instances in the last two showings that we have received from Quinn, whether it's as recently as a defensive coordinator or even prior as a head coach, where when those moments counted to really come through, he's come up short. So I mean, the if I'm really thinking of the glass half full, I mean, you can't really go much. You only can go higher than where the Commanders are right now. So if I guess if we're talking about glass half full spills, that would be my only thing, because we haven't gotten to we haven't had the best success in having a winning record. So
I'm sick of it. I'm
we
sick
have
of it.
to. Hey, look,
It's
hey,
just
look. If we're
terrible.
talking Commanders, they have to walk before, or say they have to crawl before they can walk, right? So,
I mean,
so I don't know. First, let's start with a winning record. Then we can worry about the postseason of the playoffs. So, like, if I'm thinking glass half full, at least we have someone who has seen that amount of success in the postseason versus not even making it there.
I understand what you're saying, but we said this about Ron Rivera, and Ron Rivera didn't even know what the playoff implications were for his decisions when he was here. Um, this reminds me of when we hired North Turner. North Turner used to work for the Cowboys, and he was okay with them, but somehow we thought he was going to make us into the Cowboys, and we're not the Cowboys. We need to stop thinking that we're the Cowboys. I'm really sick of the lazy way that this franchise has always done recruiting and hiring. Just because someone was good with your rival doesn't mean you need to hire them. Like,
Yeah.
come on, we need to find some new blood, something. I was very afraid. I'm complaining about Dan Quinn, but I was really afraid that we was going to hire Bill Belichick and he was going to end up like Vince
Woo,
Lombardi, because Vince
woo.
Lombardi coached here for like 18 months, but then he passed away because coaching here was so bad that he died. Like, I'm just,
Wow.
just
don't
I'm
don't
just
don't
so
don't put
frustrated.
the team on. Don't put the team on that. Come on, man.
He won like six Super Bowls or championships with the Packers. He got
That's
here and was dead in 2 years.
dang. Don't do that, bro.
Dead in 2 years. So I understand that it was great. Like, I get Dan Quinn has some accolades and stuff, and he's been in some places, but to me, it just it's. I feel like we should have honestly gone with Bieniemy. I think Bieniemy should have been the head coach. I don't see what Dan Quinn has ever done to give him another chance at being head coach. Like, he lost the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. Like, that has to let you know that the man has no, like, gusto. Like, for him to just throw up on himself like that, they were up three and a half scores, really,
If
and
I'm
lost.
really, I was gonna say, aside from what I mentioned before of him being there, of being in at least the postseason, I guess the only other glass half full component that I could bring to it is, from what I understand of how the reputation that he has, as a coach. He very much has a reputation of being someone who makes adjustments and is willing to, make changes where it's needed. From, and looking into like his history as a coach, he does have a reputation of that. A lot of times you have a lot of coaches who, and I feel like Bill Belichick is guilty of this, very much stuck in their ways. Like, you have coaches that are very successful, and once they are have had that consistent, success, of doing things one way, they're kind of unwilling to do things, try new things. And he's, from what I understand with him as a coach, he's that type of person who is just the opposite and is willing to make adjustments where needed. I just hope that we're just not seeing, we don't see more of what he has shown us in recent years, of what described with what happened with the Pats, and of course being, bounced in the first round that season. So we'll see. Any last
The
thoughts?
first round, they got bounced last year, and also, we also are neglecting that the team traded their two best defenders last year. So why would you hire a defensive coach? Like, he's supposed to be. He was a defensive coordinator. You just said all the other defensive jobs he had. What is he going to come here and teach? We just traded one of the guys that we traded in the Super Bowl this year. Why did we get a defensive coach? We're trying to develop this young quarterback who seemed to do well under Bieniemy's tutelage. I just don't understand why we would continue with him.
Yeah, indeed. So, we'll see what happens. As I said, he has a impressive overall body of work as a coach. Is just I guess the concerning part is what's happened just recently in the last few years in his career. While he is overall done a solid job with the Cowboys, how it closed out and how it ended was really
That
unfortunate
defense
based
was
on
was
the
really unfortunate.
expectations of where people were anticipating they
They
would go.
literally, just like we said, threw up all over themselves, like we've been saying about his teams. Like that defense last year was supposed to. Like I understand if the Cowboys, lost in a shootout or something. Maybe I'd give them a shootout or something. But they didn't. They got blown out of the water. And that's on the defense more than anything. So to me, you can't stop anybody. And they had all those horses on defense in Dallas. What is he going to do here? And we know he doesn't have the situational awareness to stop the bleeding. Like just commandos, commandos, commandos. You're trying to act like that team that we can't say anymore because it's epithet. But oh my gosh, I thought we'd get new ownership and they'd start to think about things. But what is Dan Quinn going to come in here and do? I don't see how he's going to reinvent the wheel. Like maybe he was okay with Matt Ryan, but it's just it's disappointing, ladies and gentlemen. I hate my head in shame for the franchise. It's really rough being a fan of
And
this
the
team.
Commanders, I know you have movies on your mind, sir. Commanders. I know you said
No, no,
Commando.
no, no. That's what we call them, the Commandos, because they go out there to get murdered every week.
Hey yo.
Commanders don't
Okay.
go anywhere. Commandos. You see the Commandos out, they get shot in the face. That's what happens to the franchise. We get shot in
Wow.
the face.
Appreciate the breakdown though, sir.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So next week, unless you're living under a rock, you'll know that we have a little game that is happening next week, and that's of course the Super Bowl. So just to give you a breakdown of what happened last Sunday. Of course, last Sunday we had the conference championships, and it resulted in the Kansas City Chiefs as well as the 49ers being the two teams that will be colliding with one another in next week's Super Bowl. So next Sunday. Just to give you a quick rundown of what transpired in those prior games last Sunday, the Kansas City uh, Chiefs. Let's see, the Kansas City Chiefs. This will be their fourth. Let's see, their
Fifth, fifth
fifth. Guys, that's
appearance.
right. Their
It's
fifth.
5 out of 6. They called in that light skinned
Fifth.
boy Michael Jordan.
Exactly. So, but just to give you a rundown of what transpired, as I said last week, the 49ers, they were down 17 points at halftime in an NFC Championship game, and by the end, were able to ink out a win at 34-31 win. And likewise, if we're talking about the uh, the Kansas City Chiefs, they were able to take down the Baltimore Ravens in a very tight game at 17-10 in the AFC Championship game. A game that many were anticipating Baltimore to appear in, but it or should say Baltimore to make it out of, but that wasn't wasn't what the destiny of the team was, and of course we have these two teams, one that is a dynasty already, um, already formulated, and another one that is on its way. So with the matchup that we have here with the Chiefs as well as with the 49ers, Tillman, talk to me. What are your thoughts on the matchup that we have?
I'm going to say something controversial here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes, say something controversial with what your thoughts are. Go ahead.
I feel like the fact that we're calling Patrick Mahomes Jordan, not because he's won as many as Michael Jordan, but because he shows up and wins whenever we need him to win, answers your point. And I feel like the fact that the man shows up and wins the games when we expect him to, he doesn't score all the time to win the games, but he don't not score to win the games. That's one thing that's very true. He definitely has been showing up whenever they need him to. Um, to be in 5 Super Bowls in 6 years is crazy.
Insane. Insane.
crazy to have. I think they have two chips. They have two chips.
Yes.
Um, this one could possibly be the third. The first back to back since the Patriots did it way, way, way back when you and I were still in high school, and some of the viewers were not even alive. And y'all are all adults on this stream for the most part, so it's just crazy. Andy Reid famously was in the division with the Commanders and the Cowboys. They chased him out. He went to five back-to-back conference finals. But to go to five Super Bowls is crazy. To go to five championships at all is crazy. But
And I
you
want to
know,
correct that. So four. I apologize. Four.
okay,
So
four.
four
I'm
in the
sorry,
last 5 years. So
four in the
not
last
five, but
five
four.
years.
Still,
Still,
if you take
they
take
gonna
away
be back
one,
next year.
you taking
They
away
gonna be
one.
back.
That's
Yeah,
still insane.
still.
But yeah, four in the last 5 years, and just as you said, correct me if I'm wrong. Like Mahomes is not like
He ain't
at the,
old.
he
He's
ain't
not.
still
He
in his
might not even
career.
be
He's
27.
still
I don't
he
think he's
more
27.
he more than likely is going to have a couple of more in him if it's all said and done. Knock on wood. I want to preface it with that. Knock on wood. Remaining as healthy as he can throughout the however long he's able to play, but that's insane at the
Insane.
age that he is in his career. Because you could arguably say he's still on the he's still he's not at. I still don't feel he's at his peak. He's not. I feel like he still has a year or so before he reaches his peak. So that's a scary thought to feel that he still can get better, and even in the time that he has to get to that point to get to his peak, we've seen incredible things from Mahomes in that time. So yeah, it's insane to have that to have that amount of success thus far in your career, and to be able to have that amount of poise you know for that amount of time in your career, and have that level of success. So I'm going to give Spielman a moment. He just had to step away just for a second. And I just want to get his thoughts on, as I said, Mahomes not being crazy. He's not, on the cusp of retiring. He's far from that. He's still, in the younger part of his career. I still feel like he has even better years ahead of him.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
so like Spillman, I just want to punt it over to you, so to speak, of, just talking about the fact that Mahomes has had this amount of success. I was just talking about that before you stepped away, having this amount of success. And like I said, I feel arguably he still hasn't even reached his peak
He
yet.
hasn't reached the zenith. No, I,
He
I,
still
I
hasn't. He's
think
still on the
this might be
on.
his
He's still
28th
on the
year. He's
incline
28.
up to his
Yeah,
peak.
this is the beginning of his prime. I feel like. I think we got at least 4 or 5 more years of prime years, and then
Yeah,
with the way the rules are set up in the NFL, we probably got 7 or 8 more years of him just being in the league and playing at a high level. Not saying
right.
he's going to be championship level for those next 7 or 8 years, but
But that's a
you know,
scary thing to have this to be able to have the success that you've had thus far, and still, folks can arguably say you still aren't even in your prime yet.
not even in
You
your
still
prime. They got rid of his best receiver 2 seasons ago, and they still went to back-to-back super.
adjustment and still adjust and to still make it there by the end. Incredible,
It's just crazy.
incredible.
So they plugged in different players. I feel like that's the ultimate sign of if you're the guy. If we could just put anybody next to you and you still make it to the top, you're the guy.
Indeed, indeed. All right. So as I said, we're not going to spend too much time today. Today was very sports heavy, more so than what it normally is, but that's just by virtue of what's been happening within the last week. And I feel like the fact that we also have the Super Bowl happening next week shaped a or made an influence in how a lot of the major stories that happened this week played out. So that will do it for this week in pop culture. Again, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, and I have with me who?
Spill. I just want to say this week they also we didn't put it up because it's not really a story yet. But Akira Toriyama is not Akira Toriyama, but Hideo Nomo from the the Metal Gear Solid franchise, said that he's going to do another espionage video game. He didn't say he was doing Metal Gear Solid, but he said he was doing Metal Gear Solid, ladies and gentlemen. He said it. He didn't
in
say
but
it,
so
but he
many
said it.
words, right?
He said he was going to do another Metal Gear.
In but so many words,
Oh
yeah.
my God, I'm so excited. So, you know, don't forget to give us 5 stars.
Five stars,
Um,
5 stars.
yeah, 5 stars. And you can catch me on Instagram, Truly Spill.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Again, I'm your host. You can catch me at Brandon Troy ENT on X, and then of course Brandon Troy _ENT on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, guys. Be safe out there, and we will see you soon.